No one has escaped the ripple effect of the deadly coronavirus. While the number of deaths here in the Caribbean may not compare to those in Europe, the United States, or even South America, one life lost is one too many. Here's a harsh reality. Life goes on. We have to find ways and means to survive without endangering lives. Our resolve is being put to the task. We must fight this battle. We must win. We are coping with COVID-19 in the Caribbean.
In the COVID-19,
like leading
social distancing.
Recorded one. Spoke to journalists from St. Lucia, Antigua and Barbuda.
There is no need for fear or panic.
Meet Roxanne, a simple woman, busy making ends meet. Her daily routine, work, home, work. COVID-19 was nowhere on her radar.
The first time, it was when I felt as though I wasn't feeling well. It was like a flu symptom, and I didn't take it seriously. I thought it was just the common flu. Not really a runny nose. I just had a coughing, and I couldn't breathe properly when I coughed. So that was the only issue I had. That's why I didn't take it seriously. When I woke up the next morning, I felt that I couldn't stand on my feet. I couldn't hold my ground. That is when I took it seriously. I was extremely weak. I reached out to my son, and he called the hotline number, and they instructed him to take me to the health center nearby, and that is what we did.
After her checkup at the health facility, the doctor advised Roxanne that she displayed symptoms of COVID-19. This was her reaction.
I went into a state of confusion because, I didn't expect to hear that.
A state of confusion, panic, fear. Just a few of the emotions one feels when they are confronted with the possibility of being another COVID case. Roxanne felt all of the above and more. Coupled with little knowledge of the virus, anxiety begins to set in. But Roxanne is not the only one feeling anxious. Meet Davalee, a millennial, on the other side of the playing field. She does not have COVID-19, however, the psychological impact has taken its toll. She tells us why.
Coping with COVID-19 for me was something very difficult because I was not prepared. I was one of those people who did not understand that it would have impacted me in a direct way. Of course, because the initial outbreak happened in China and the UK and the US. So I didn't think that it was going to impact me or people I knew. But of course it did. And I was not prepared for that just because of my initial mindset. So it was very difficult. I feel like my mental strength was tested.
On the other end, Roxanne's mental state was elevated.
As I told you, I was in a confused state, and I said, Lord, help me. That is the only thing that came to me. When I got the results, all I said, Lord, help me.
Antiguan entertainer Dennis Roberts, aka Menace, wants to see more attention paid to mental wellness.
Mental frustration, mental stress, mental awareness, I take it. And as a culture, we usually shun from it, but I have a better appreciation for mental health. Since COVID has made its mark upon us, the anxiety level of which I've been through, I usually experience it during carnival time. a little bit more in Soko Monarch preparations. You get a little bit nervous here and there. But the uncertainty right now for everybody, not even me in particular, generally, is of a high number. And we must know how to cope with it because it's going to really affect us very heavily. Persons out there who have bills to pay, mortgage and car notes and families to maintain. It's a real burden. So mental awareness, we need to really get the conversation going, put down that stigma that we have for it and start to talk more so we can relieve the stress because it's coming. It's coming.
Dr. Tarianne Joseph says letting go is a good coping mechanism.
It sounds difficult, but systematically, if that's something that you practice, it really will work well for you. And just have a positive mindset. It's going to pass. It's not going to last forever. It's not going to be your life forever. And just find ways to somehow be able to adjust to the way things are right now, but always keep in the back of your mind, this will not be my life forever. Think of the positive, have a positive outlook, a positive mindset, and that should be pretty helpful. So there are others who would have lost their income. So the uncertainty, how am I going to live? How am I going to eat? How am I going to provide for my family members? And persons who have this sudden change in their lifestyle would actually be more vulnerable.
Dava Lee can relate.
Let me say I was not aware. I was not aware of the fact that I had issues with anxiety and depression. I know it exists. I know in our society it's not addressed. I also know that people are stereotyped if they are willing to admit that they have these issues. And so for me, maybe it did exist, but I was not aware of it. So being forced to be alone, being forced to every day, look at your life and the lives of the people around you crumbling in a very quick way, it affected me. And of course, I am a business owner, so for me, it was a direct impact on that. I'm a makeup artist, I'm a beauty professional. So once our country was in lockdown mode, of course, the domino effect happened. There are no fetes, there are no events, there are no weddings, the hotels are closed. So that means that there's no business for me. Luckily for me, I'm somebody who saves a lot. So my financial stability was not compromised very heavily, but my mental health, just the fact that I was no longer doing the things that I love to do, professionally and personally, and that was a big deal for me.
The mental warfare created by the coronavirus cannot be measured. Alone together, this too shall pass. We're all in this together. These are familiar phrases that we now use in our daily vocabulary. Battling negative thoughts while literally fighting the virus almost seems surreal, almost superhuman. Meet Charmaine, a nurse for over 30 years. She's recovered and she's ready.
My first signs and symptoms started on the Friday. I left work with a temperature, but it was low grade. I didn't think much about it, and it was hot. So I thought, okay, maybe it's the heat of the day. And we were actually fooling around with the temperature at the clinic. We were playing, we just put the batteries in, and I said, okay, take me to test. And we got the low grade temperature. Came home, I progressively felt worse. The flu, like the cold, the runny nose and the runny eyes and the sore throat started the Saturday night. And then the Sunday evening, everything came down. The diarrhea, the nausea, the pain, the body pains. At first I thought I was experiencing chikungunya again. But it progressively just went downhill from there. So on the Sunday night, I called my supervisor and told her that I wasn't feeling well, and could she possibly advise me? She said, isolate, we'll call you in the morning. Monday morning, the epi team called, and they asked me to check the temperature. At that point, it was 101.5, and it was sustained there for 10 days. No matter how much Panadol I drank, no matter how much showers I took, it remained at 101.5.
What was Charmaine's mental state? Her mood? Now, we are aware that no two experiences are the same. Everyone copes differently. I asked Charmaine if, at any time, did she believe that she was not going to make it. This was her response.
No. No, I knew. I kept asking if this was the worst. Even when the doctors from the epi team asked me to come to the hospital, and I said to them, no, who to get it will get it, who to die will die, and if I'm to die, I want to die home. And they were very adamant that I was very short of breath, my oxygen levels were very low, and Dr. Coffey was on my tail, calling me 3 times a day to make sure that I was okay, to beg me to come into the hospital. She said, I'm going to send the bus for you now. I said, no, not coming. And then she said, okay, you know best. And she said, you've always been positive. Every time I spoke to you, you've been positive. So I'm going to leave you to your own decision, and I pray for you.
So Charmaine stayed at home, determined to beat COVID-19 and get back to work.
So on the first day, we realized that I was feeling better. And I said to her, Dr. Coffey, I feel better, you know. And she said, really? Tell me what it's like. So they were the epi team were wonderful. Also the nurse in charge of the Nurses Association, Doopy Winston. Nurse Doopy Winston came and brought care packages. She asked me if I needed anything. I was really well supported throughout the fight, so I didn't feel any way. No, I was confident that I would get better and go back to work.
Is this the mindset of frontline healthcare workers? I have to get better. I must get better. I need to help. They need me. Is this what was going through Charmaine's head while she lay in bed with a 101-degree fever, determined to recover? How does a healthcare professional manage? Dr. Terry Ann Joseph tells us how she copes.
I practice exactly what I preach. The changes I can make, I focus on those. What I can't change, I leave them alone. I try to get in at least, let's be honest, 7 good hours of unbroken sleep. I try to do that. I pay special attention to my nutrition. I take my vitamins. I exercise. I connect. I pray. Because I'm a Christian, I'm a church girl. So I pray. I tap into the spiritual part of me because my faith is fundamental to who I am.
Let's shift a bit. We acknowledge that all governments are locked in an uphill battle. This is pretty much uncharted territory. Are they on the right course? Anthony Athill weighs in.
I think that the government, they have made the right decisions, or they've done the right things based on the information that they've had. I don't think there's any right or wrong way. I believe there's a way to sustain us. More importantly, as we do not want to have mass hysteria and issues of robberies, break-ins, and murders based on a sense of loss. Keeping the curfew in place is a wonderful thing, from 9 to 5 in the morning. I think that's a great, great thing. We don't want persons strolling around at night when there's nothing really going on. But we have to make sure that the criminal element are kept under control.
I really, really, really want to emphasize personal responsibility. We can't keep the country closed forever because we have to eat. And life goes on. There is life during COVID. There's life after COVID. But there is personal responsibility. And we have to understand that there's a partnership between the government and the people. The government will do their part, but we also need to do ours. And that's called personal responsibility. That's something that the government cannot do for us. That's something we do for ourselves, and that's something that we must do. Follow the rules. Follow the guidelines.
As part of PAHO's ongoing response to COVID-19, the director of the Pan American Health Organization, Dr. Carissa F. Etienne, says the response to the COVID-19 pandemic in the region of the Americas must include chronic disease care, as 1 in 4 people are at increased risk of poor outcomes from COVID-19 due to underlying non-communicable diseases. Noting that more than 2.4 million cases and over 143,000 deaths have made the Americas the epicenter of the COVID-19 pandemic, she says, as cases continue to rise in our region, our efforts to protect those with underlying conditions must intensify. Dr. Etienne says for most countries in the Americas, now is not the time to relax restrictions or scale back preventative strategies. Now is the time to stay strong, remain vigilant, and aggressively implement proven public health measures.
Coming up on coping with COVID-19 in the Caribbean.
If we don't follow the rules and regulations, how do we expect to get by? You know, I mean, it's just, you do or you die. It's simple.
I've seen a big change, a major change, and I've seen a respect now gain for farmers and even backyard farming.
We care about ourselves and we also care about the clients. So this is for the betterment of all of us.
And a closer look at stigma and discrimination in this coronavirus era. We are coping with COVID-19 in the Caribbean. Antigua and Barbuda, we got this.
Coping with COVID-19 in the Caribbean is funded by the Pan American Health Organization.